everyone, I'm Vishnu. I'm the founder and CEO of Ente. Welcome to our first in-person podcast. Today we have Kailash Nadh with us. Kailash is the CTO of Zerodha. Zerodha happens to be India's largest stock broking platform. And Zerodha is a company that has bootstrapped its way to over $10 billion in valuation. And Kailash is also the founder of FLOSS Fund, which is granting over $1 million every year to free and open source projects. So thank you, Kailash. Thank you for joining us today. And my first question is around FLOSS Fund, because it sounds like a non-selfish good deed that you're doing. So I would like to understand why you started the project and what you're hoping to accomplish with it.
Firstly, that valuation bit, I think that is whatever market valuation, we value ourselves very conservatively and logically. I'd just like to say
Right.
And I don't endorse that number.
Got it.
FLOSS Fund, it's an annual commitment that we have. We've set aside $1 million per year to be given out to free and open source projects across the globe, not just projects that we use as Zerodha. Like you mentioned, we are an investment and trading platform, largest in India, and we are fully built using open source stuff, technologies. We have a full FOSS stack. The very first piece of technology we incorporated at Zerodha, like more than a decade ago, was Python. We started scripting. That's how we built the entire enterprise. And I've been a FOSS hobbyist and developer myself for a very long time. So we have a very strong FOSS culture. We've been using FOSS heavily. We've been openly talking about it and acknowledging it forever from day one. And as we grew, as we became a profitable enterprise, we started contributing back. Code, we were always in bits and pieces, because if you have an engineering team that appreciates FOSS, code contributions will happen naturally. But we also started contributing money in small little bits and pieces, parcels, and we did it for many years, 5-6 years. Then at a point we realized that it's not easy to just give money ad hoc, and it's not really doing justice to what we are trying to do or the amount of value we derive from FOSS. So incorporating 5-6 years worth of lessons, we created this thing called FLOSS Fund, which is a structured way of giving corporate money out to open source projects out there. And that's how it's happened. We just wound up the first year, this October, 12 months, and we have allocated $1 million out. We've only been able to actually disperse some 300K, but that's mostly owing to paperwork, cross-jurisdictional stuff. There's a lot of work happening there to simplify that. But we are very happy that we've been able to support a very large number of really critical projects out there so far. And we, of course, plan to continue doing this in perpetuity. And the $1 million, that's an experimental figure. We're hoping that we can bump that up significantly as we figure out how to operate such a fund.
Got it. That's great to hear that the budget is going up. So you mentioned about Zerodha and valuation, right? So if you keep valuation aside, from what I've understood, you guys are running, I think last year you guys clocked a $500 million profit of sorts, says LLMs, right? And so it'd be great if you could tell people about what Zerodha does and how you guys are actually making the money that you're making.
We are a stock broking firm, investment and trading platform. Anybody can sign up on our platform and start investing in stocks. So there's this thing called the discount model. Zerodha was started in 2010, so this is our 15th year. We just passed our 15th year. And to invest in the stock markets, to make stock investing a part of your personal financial plan and portfolio, you had to pay a hefty sum back in the day. So when we came around, and we didn't start out as a tech platform, we started out as a pricing model discount platform. We introduced this thing called discount broking in India. So rather than paying a percentage of how much ever you were investing of your own money into the stock markets, you could pay a tiny fixed fee. It was 20 rupees back then in 2010. It is 20 rupees today, max, that you pay for a transaction. 20 rupees is like pretty close to 20 cents today, US cents. And in 2015, we introduced another model. If you're investing in the markets for the long term, buying stocks that you prefer and holding it in your portfolio for a long time, it's actually free. So that was also a pioneering pricing model. So combined with the pricing model and the product and tech improvements that we brought about in the market, very early days, there wasn't much happening technology-wise in Indian capital markets. So we were the early movers. Lots of people liked us, lots of people referred their friends and family to us, and we built a multi-million strong user base. Today we have around 18 million users, I think, something like that, with no advertising. So in our 15-year history, we've never advertised. We don't have concepts like customer acquisition cost. In fact, up until this year, people had to pay a fee to even sign up. So we only really wanted serious users. So generally, gamification, that is not something that we believe in. It's a serious platform. You come to invest your life savings, etc. So it's become it's a volume game, and we have a really tiny and lean tech team. This entire operation, handling close to 20% of India's capital market volumes, it's all done by a 35-member tech team. Product, engineering, DevOps, it's all 35, right? And only possible because we have a FOSS stack, no managed services. Philosophically, we self-host everything from our core financial platforms to our support ticketing system to the HR system, all FOSS, all self-hosted. And generally, philosophically, the entire team, not just the tech team, we are lean. We operate a really lean, tight ship. And all of this has contributed greatly to profitability. Although we charge 0 rupees for investments and maximum 20 for trades, we've been able to generate significant profits thanks to being a lean ship, thanks to using FOSS, and thanks to all of that contributing big, significant profit margins. And again, thanks to people believing in us and our track record over the last 15 years. So that's like a concise 3-minute history of what we are, who we do. Sorry, who we are, what we do.
Right. And you mentioned about the lean team bit, right? And that is contrarian in some sense, and it is something we at NTO also, we also believe that we're an intentionally small team. There are now 6 full-time engineers at NTO, and this is the largest we've ever been.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that you've done a lot more contrarian things in your time at Zerodha over the last close to 13 years. And what are some other contrarian things that you've tried out which you think has had a positive impact on the people and the culture?
See, I don't necessarily agree with the view that what we're doing is contrarian. If you go back 25 years, and some of the most cutting edge technology and software teams in the world were tiny teams.
Right.
Like 2 or 3 people or 5 people or 10 people would build and ship the best games in the world, best desktop applications in the world, etc. It's a financialization and overcapitalization and the taker of the bean counters. I know it's a little, it's a bit derogatory, but I truly mean it. That has changed culture in software development, engineering, and hacking. Our closest competitor today has 800 plus engineers, I think. We have 35. So it's not contrarian at all. This is how it was. And it works. That's why we exist, right? We are probably the best example for this in India right now. At this scale, at this criticality, we operate with just 35 people. And 35 people aren't choked. We have like a great work-life balance. We have fun. So it's not contrarian. This is the way to go. What is contrarian has now become mainstream.
Right.
What you can do with 10 people, trying to do that with 500 people, then inventing things like distributed microservice meshes to accommodate your team structure into software development. It's a mess.
Right.
So this is normal, and what is weird and ironic is that it is seen as contrarian.
Maybe contrarian is definitely not mainstream.
Yes.
Right.
No, it is seen as contrarian, but it shouldn't be is what I'm saying.
Right.
And similarly, we've never advertised philosophically. That does interesting things to your focus and culture. If the only way for you to get customers is for your customers to be satisfied with your offerings to the point that they go bring others to stick onto the platform, then the entire organizational culture and DNA is wired towards quality. We have no lead generation, no ad campaigns, nothing. So the entirety of the org, from a customer support person to a tech person to a business person, we are all focused on quality and the value that we can deliver to customers. Because if you can't pull that off, nobody will come to you, and you have no other way to acquire customers. No marketing, no ads, no nothing, right? So that's actually very contrarian, I would say. So we don't advertise. We had a negative customer acquisition cost until recently. Even now, it's pretty close to zero. We waived off the small little fee. So every time somebody signed up, they were giving us money to sign up. Now, you have to be very, very confident in yourself and your offerings and your team and your products and services to do something like that, especially in a cutthroat industry like this, where the margin is 0 cents to, let's say, 20 cents. So that's been interesting and contrarian. And we are like a living case study, a body of evidence for the fact that that works. You can bet fully on quality, even in a legacy industry like finance, something as boring and heavily regulated as finance, and still, pull that off. Hiring is also quite interesting. In a 35-member tech team, I don't think anybody's really had any serious industry experience. I'd say 95% of the people have had zero industry experience. Most people have just joined us right out of college. So our hiring philosophy and criteria is also pretty unique at this point. I've realized it's very uncommon. But you have that philosophy. That's good. It's great to see. And that has also worked. So look for people who have certain kinds of philosophies about life, about engineering, about learning, not particular skills like this framework, this language. Of course, sometimes language skills, etc., are important. But if people have the right combination of those qualities and skills, they can pick up a language or a framework in no time. So we hire like that. We always hired young folks out of college, and they've learned on the job, and people stick around practically forever. I mean, rarely does a person leave our team, and generally when they do, it's for personal reasons, nothing to do with work, job, or career. So that's also pretty unique. And we're a flat team, and everybody has to do everything. You have to know enough of everything. So full stack in that sense. So yeah, how our team is also rather unique, and perhaps that's contrarian. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Oh no, that's not contrarian. In the beginning, I said it's not contrarian. Sorry, small teams are not contrarian.
Right.
But the way we hire is contrarian. Yeah. People learn here. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And from an engineering perspective, so before the camera started rolling, we were talking about security incidents and regulations around it. And could you share something interesting, like some interesting engineering problem that you actually had to solve along the way, which you think is actually very novel and very unique to Zerodha?
Lots and lots of challenges. The nature of this business is real time. Millions of people come online, log in, they place trades. Trades fly from your mobile device to a stockbroker like us. Then it goes to stock exchanges via lease lines. The trades are settled in microseconds, and the thing comes back. So it's as retail and real time and critical, because these are financial transactions, as it gets. Your payment can be 1-2 seconds late. It's not real time, right? But your trade or your investment thing, it's real time. That's the very nature. And everything moves one step ahead sequentially. Every trade, the whole nature of this industry is sequential and real time and massive scale. So that, of course, poses a lot of engineering challenges, right? We've faced all kinds of challenges over the last 15 years. There was no baseline. We've had to practically invent stuff in this industry, which today have become baseline. There was a blog post that we wrote last year. One interesting technical challenge, which is perhaps unique to our industry, is this thing called the contract note. So if you are a retail investor, you log into a platform, you buy, sell shares, do financial transactions. We are legally required to send you a PDF report called the contract note within X hours of the markets closing in the evening. So this is very unique to the stockbroking industry, where pretty much every action is regulated. You must deliver an email within X hours. You must send this report within Y hours. You must do these things. You must send SMS communication within X hours. Gazillion regulations. And on some nights, we were having to generate 2.5-3 million PDFs, 1.5 to 3 million, depending on volatile. That's another thing, volatility. Some days the stock markets are like this, some days they are like this, and everything is on overdrive. And this had become really challenging. There are people who place 2 transactions a day, you'll get a single page or 2 pages. There are people who place 5,000 transactions a day, in which case you'll get a 50-page or 500-page or 2,000-page PDF. Now you have to have a pipeline that crunches all this data, tens of millions of transactions, do a lot of math, different kinds of tax computations, etc., whole series of regulated business rules, and produce a PDF in a format prescribed by the regulator. So the regulations prescribe the tabular structure in which you're supposed to create this PDF. Now, how do you generate 2 million PDFs within hours and send it out of your system to millions of users? Attachment size varies from 100 KB to 20 MB. This was a very interesting problem. So it really comes down to quick data pipeline processing, batch computing, PDF generation, classic problem. So we had to invent something for this to work, and really fast SMTP throughput and pushing. And we use FOSS tools for all of this. So after a lot of R&D, after a lot of trial and errors, experiments, we came up with a pipeline, and we were delivering like 2 million PDFs, close to 2 million PDFs within 25 minutes, end to end. Get raw data from stock exchanges, crunch everything, produce customer-ready PDFs, push it out of our system within 25 minutes, using one clean pipeline at dirt cheap costs. Bring up a bunch of large EC2 instances, run these tools there. We used LaTeX initially, and Typist, that's a new thing, LaTeX replacement for PDF generation. It's meant for academic documents, but worked out beautifully. So it was quite novel, I think, globally, and we published a blog post, and the whole end-to-end thing finishing in 25 minutes. So you only pay for instances that come up. Every CPU core is utilized and churned, utilized maximum, and then they're shut down. So it now costs us pennies practically to do this massive pipeline, which happens every night. So lots of things like this. But this is like a favorite example of mine.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. So next I want to talk a bit about your childhood. For those listening, Kailash and I are actually from the same small corner of the world, and we speak the same language. And ironically, we are speaking English at this point. But I would like to know what your childhood was like. Like, how was it growing up in Kerala, and how did you end up in London to do a PhD in artificial intelligence when AI was not really a thing, at least not the way it is right now?
Yeah.
And what made you leave it all behind and come back?
My life has been a series of coincidences. At this point, I'm nearing 40. I do not really believe in grand plans. You can have grand plans, but things rarely go that way. So everything has been a series of lucky coincidences, and persistence, effort you put in definitely helps increase the probability of better coincidences. I grew up in Calicut. You've been there, tiny city in Kerala, and I was a proper 90s kid and whatnot. Happened to get a personal computer by sheer coincidence. Given my family's background, it shouldn't have happened, but lucky turn of events, it happened. And I discovered this thing called writing code, right? Very novel. And this was around the year 2000. So that was a whole different era. Dial-up internet. Late 90s was when information superhighway was capturing the imagination of the world. Everybody was very optimistic. I remember feeling very optimistic. Internet will change the world for the better. It has, and it hasn't. So mixed bag. So that's how I picked up coding, and I got seriously into it. Being in Calicut, no peer groups, no communities, no nothing. And this is a tiny, tiny town in a non-metro city in India. So you can imagine, my interface with the outside world was dial-up internet. Everything I learned, everything I figured out through trial and error, writing code, open source, absolutely everything, dial-up internet. And nobody really else to talk to or relate to. The year is 2000, 99, 2000. And I got hooked. I started writing programs, sharing, copy pasting them on the internet. Then later on I understood that it's called open source. And there are these things called licenses. And then the whole thing clicked. But it was very natural. How do you learn from the internet when there's nothing around you? You look at what others have pasted on the internet. You copy paste that code locally and you run it, you tweak it. That's how you learn. So basically how FOSS works, that is FOSS. But that's how I began learning how to code without even knowing or realizing that there's this thing called FOSS. Because it's so natural. How else do you learn, right? You have to be able to freely explore, copy, paste, share, tweak, tinker. So my I must have been around 13 years old. And that became my mental foundation. Then open source philosophy, the political ideology of it, licenses, etc. just clicked later on. But FOSS in that sense, the very essence of it, has been my mental foundation from the very beginning. And when it happens to you at that age, right, that really becomes your worldview. So that happened. I got heavily involved in this software development stuff, Perl, CGI, all kinds of stuff, cool things, Visual Basic I was doing. Then I figured that you can build programs for others and make some money over the internet. $5, $10, $50, slowly $100, hundreds of dollars. It slowly happened. And I figured out internet commerce, freelancing when I was like 14, 15 years old. And I started doing that. And my first big open source project called B Machine, it's a blogging platform, came out in 2002, was GPL licensed. I didn't really understand GPL, but understood that this is how it works. Right. So it was GPL licensed. I was 15 years old, I think. And then, because I got so hooked and I became a really productive teenage coder, constantly pumping out utilities and software on the internet, participating in internet communities in that sense. And the community grew around B Machine, had several 100,000 users. There were several 100,000 blogs on the internet that ran B Machine. B Machine became a one-click install thing on shared web hosts. It became a thing. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have the imagination or any views on how to develop it, take it further. That is the thing about a tiny place like Calicut, right? No peer groups, no examples, no nothing. If you learn something, it is through your own efforts on the dial-up internet. So I didn't know how to, but I kept on building stuff because I liked building it. Sheer coincidence, because I was doing all of this, an opportunity opened up for a partial scholarship in the UK, mm-hmm. London, because I was doing all of this. And I didn't want to get stuck in the Indian system of engineering education, 4 years of, I couldn't. I really wanted lots and lots of free time to continue doing what I was doing, which is building stuff, tinkering. And then I ended up in the UK by it's a long story, by a turn of events, partial scholarship, Middlesex University. I did my BSc Computer Science and I got exactly what I wanted. Insane amounts of free time to build stuff and also do university work. But because I was doing so much, because I was building tech stuff like a lot, again by a sheer happy coincidence, something I hadn't thought of the very idea of PhD at all. It wasn't on my roadmap. I wanted to finish my education and come back. I wanted to study and come back. So there was never a thought, should I stay, etc., etc. I was always, I'm going there to study to the UK and I'll come back to India, which is where, I want to be. Then the PhD happened by sheer coincidence. It was a fully funded PhD, got full scholarship, and this was 2008. And AI wasn't new, by the way. AI, at that point, AI research in academia was 60 years old. I think that period was generally known as the autumn of AI. There's been summer, winter, it's a cycle, right? Now we are in like peak frenzy, froth era of AI. But I greatly enjoyed research and work there. Completely unplanned, all turn of events, but because of the work I was doing. And my area of research was neurocomputation, Hebbian cell assemblies, trying to recreate neurobiological processes in artificial neurons, FLIF neurons. It was very, very deeply interesting stuff. and managed to publish a bunch of papers. So it was a great time. It was a successful PhD. I really enjoyed my time. Spent 6 years there. When I finished the PhD, then there were doors that opened. Academia, research, industry. Took me a while to figure out, but I was like, I came here to study. I've done that, now I'll go back. So I came back to India in 2011-12 to work on open source stuff with no roadmap, just do tech stuff. And I knew how to make a living online. So I wasn't really concerned about how to live. And I absolutely did not want to get a job or be involved in any sort of a corporate environment. That was a given. I wanted my liberty and freedom to continue experimenting. So that's how
So why did you choose to come back?
I'm rooted here. My mind is here, emotionally and objectively. I like Kerala. I like India. If I want to do stuff, if I'm going to experiment and build things that others find value from, derive value from, I want people here also to. And the FOSS ecosystem here is now it's taking shape. So, but generally, I want to be here. I'm from here. I'm emotionally, culturally rooted here. Although all of us FOSS people are global people. We collaborate and work with people from all across the world. I've been doing that from when I was 13, and yet I'm just rooted here as a person. So it was a no-brainer. I came back.
Got it. See, it's not every day that I get to talk to someone who's had a PhD in AI. So I have a bunch of questions on that front, right? I'll start with a very surface level one, which is how is Zerodha right now leveraging AI to like boost productivity or whatever it is that you guys are trying to do?
See, commodity use cases really. Nothing so much hype. LLMs are amazing. The capabilities are astonishing. As a senior engineer, I am productive like I've never been before with LLMs. But they're a tool. You need to know how to use them, right tool for the right job. And at Zerodha, we take product, financial, and business decisions very, very carefully. And we haven't really come across any magical use cases where you can just incorporate AI and deliver, financial products to people. There are obvious use cases, operational and organizational efficiency. For instance, we get hundreds of thousands of customer calls every month, customer support calls. By regulations, we are mandated to store those calls for several years. And we have a quality team that randomly samples and listens to calls to mark them on quality parameters. This was a good interaction, bad interaction. Our customer support personnel, they delivered the right answer, wrong answer, etc. You can't really listen to hundreds of thousands of calls, right? Now we have a small little self-hosted Open Whisper, Pipeline, Llama, etc. doing this analysis and surfacing calls for the humans to review, saying, you might want to review this call.
Right.
So no humans displaced, but the lives of the quality team, drudgery removed. They don't have to now listen to arbitrary calls. They just have to look at the escalated things and humans do what they're supposed to do. So these sort of things, great productivity boosters, but not really, the whole powered by AI, we are completely changed. That's not how we view it. Right tool for the right job. Lots of little things like that are happening.
Got it.
Yeah.
So to be honest, I think for some of us at Inter, most of us at Inter, for the longest time, I think we were disregarding LLMs or kind of diminishing them to maybe Markov chain with most states. And I think around GPT-4, GPT-5 is when I have kind of taken a 180 when I realized that these things are ridiculously powerful.
Yeah.
Right. So now there is a Silicon Valley approach to how they're kind of improving the models by throwing more cache and more compute and more data at the problem.
Yeah.
Do you think that is the way forward, not just to improve these models, but to actually reach general intelligence or AGI as they call it?
Honestly, logically, looking at the evidence, looking at what I know or what little I learned during my period of research, I don't think so. LLMs are astonishing. The effects they produce are astonishing. Utility is also astonishing. But to think that this is 60% there towards AGI, I think that is illogical. A couple of years ago, people were saying this. Some really big people and purveyors of big AI, they were all saying that we are at the cusp of AGI. Feeding in lots of text and videos will produce AGI. That was nonsensical back then. It is nonsensical now. There is no consensus on what intelligence even means, even today, from a neuroscience perspective, from a computational perspective, from a philosophical perspective, from a biological perspective. Definitely no consensus on what AGI, if without defining intelligence, you can't even define AGI, right? And yet people are saying this particular technology that uses deep learning and transformers and text tokens are there. Not really, no. Do they give us insights that can be used to further research? Absolutely. Have we gone from here to here in the last 5 years? Absolutely. Are we any close to doing AGI? I don't think so. Like I said, we barely understand our own neurocognitive processes. So to even have a baseline saying we are halfway there, it makes no sense. That's nonsensical. Amazing stuff, and throwing more data, people are now realizing, we are seeing large AI companies come out and say we are slowly hitting the limits of scaling laws. This is a brute force approach. LLMs are not really scientific. There's some element of science there. It's engineering, and largely brute force engineering. And history has moved forward a lot with brute force engineering. You create something, you don't really know how it works, then you figure out how it works and you improve and it becomes science and whatnot, right? We are at that stage. And I think looks like this has peaked. What the kind of technologies we have, the kind of optimizations people are doing. Now it's all incremental. There's no big GPT 2.0 to 5.0 sort of leap. It could happen because so much resources are being poured into it. But to think that LLMs are the future of AGI, I don't think that makes any logical sense. There's no evidence for that, not even consensus for that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Cool, I've actually gone a bit off script, right? I'll get back to what I wanted to talk about. We discussed Zerodha earlier, right? And you guys are completely bootstrapped. You guys are independent and generating a lot of revenue. And at the same time, it's not like you guys are averse to venture capital either. You guys have your own venture fund in the form of Rain Matter. You guys do invest. So you've, in some sense, had insights into both sides of the table, right? Like how both the games are being played.
Yeah.
So I would like to know what you think is like, how are these companies different in terms of the culture they have, how this culture kind of impacts the employees and ultimately end consumers?
What culture?
The culture that is there within the company, I would expect that to be a bit different because like we have not raised venture capital right now. I have a lot of friends who have.
Versus
right, so the culture that we have at India right now is very different from what a bunch of my friends have, like the companies that are there.
Yeah.
So, and that has its own impact on employees and then the end consumers as well.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious to understand what your take is on this.
So the difference is often stark and catastrophic. We've seen pioneering engineering companies, I don't want to name them, really large pioneering engineering companies in the world, in computing, in aviation, everywhere, that were built and scaled by engineers, people who understood and cared. We saw those companies degrade, go away from innovation to shareholder value maximization with catastrophic effects for the world, right? So returns, financial returns being the sole incentive is a big problem. Now, venture capital is not a bad thing. It brings capital, it supports lots of things that must happen in society. But the unfortunate reality is that the significant majority of venture capital also brings a lot of really bad incentives and pushes and philosophical disalignments. We have a fund ourselves. We started the Rain Matter Fund in 2016 when we were tiny, and our profits were a fraction of what we had today. But that's because we realized that there's so much to do in this ecosystem. As one org, we couldn't do it ourselves, so we must support other orgs. So that's how it started out. The DNA of the fund was basically that we need to expand the ecosystem. It wasn't to maximize returns. In fact, our fund is a perennial fund. We have a whole public post explaining how it works. We invest, but we never take returns out. If returns come our way from one of our investments, that goes back into the fund. So the very goal of the fund, the investments we do, is to keep expanding ecosystem. We have many verticals now: technology, fintech, health, all kinds of things, deep technology, So, are we a conventional venture capitalist? Absolutely not. We don't take board seats. We made 140 plus startup investments at this point. Over the last 10 years, we have 0 board seats. We don't interfere, we just support, and we do not push people for exit. We don't even expect returns. If there are returns, as I said, it goes back into the fund. So we didn't set up the fund to maximize our own, or enrich ourselves in that sense. We set up the fund to expand the ecosystem. But venture capital funds have clear mandates. I'm not saying it's bad, but they have mandates. They are not set up for social good, like most of them. They're set up to maximize capital. You invest X, you want 5X or 10X. Within 5 to 7 years, you push your portfolio startup to do an IPO. That doesn't work for most companies. You can't build companies that are IPO ready in 5 years. If you want solid products, solid companies that are well established with strong foundations, it takes years, 10, 15, 20 years. So if you don't have patient capital going into companies, it pushes them to do all kinds of things. That's when you see blitz scaling via marketing, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars spent on cash packs. You see all kinds of things, right? Perverse incentives. We are philosophically opposed to that completely. So when we invest, the expectations are set right for us and the people who take investments from us. So that's about the fund. But now that I've explained it, taking 3 minutes, I've lost track of the second part of your question.
That how do you think it actually impacts?
Yes. Sorry. I think the answer is here. The moment you give money to people and your expectation is to get 5x or 10x or whatever x out of it in the next short term, and the incentives are like that. There's a commission, there's a carry, you have to returns to your LPs, etc. That's how the financial structure works. Then you're pushing the team, small startup, big startup, whatever, to quickly optimize and get to that scale of revenue. That's when we've seen this with open source projects that have raised venture capital funding, right? It's open source, you get community buy-in, you get usage, you get lots of participation, then there's a license flip. And if you look at we must do this collectively, a small little study of open source projects that have raised VC funding, who flipped licenses, who've gone closed source or source available, or things like SSO tax happens. It's one of the most ridiculous things out there. SSO, two-factor authentication, single sign-on is one of the most fundamental. It's not even a feature. It must be there. How can you have a product without that?
Right.
And yet that gets paywalled. That's a great sign of perverse incentives. So when you're constantly pushed to maximize and return the capital that you raised, then everything kind of goes for a toss. Your company vision, your product vision, your philosophies, none of those things really matter. They all take a backseat because generally those things take a lot of time. And there's massive evidence for this out there objectively. It screws up engineering culture, it screws up product culture, everything becomes oriented towards returns and number maximization. You have to show growth. The number of users, generally the number of users don't even matter for a lot of businesses. The number of quality users who are deriving value and, let's say, paying for it matters. There's no point in having 200 million people if 100 million accounts are just barely active of whatever service, and only 2 million people are actually paying for the service, right? So, but you have to show growth. So you're pushed to chase all kinds of terrible, wrong incentives. And we couldn't imagine, see, we are bootstrapped. We don't have to answer to any investors. We pick FOSS. It's a full FOSS stack. We do things slowly. We work with a 5 to 10 year horizon. So when we launch a feature, we are planning for its trajectory over the next 5 to 10 years. You can't afford 5 or 10 year plans of vision in a blitz scaling VC funded company. So you can imagine everything around it then goes for a toss. So it's terrible in my view, being pushed to return so much within 5 to 10 years. It's terrible for the business world. It's bad for the people involved. It's bad for society. You end up creating businesses that are monstrosities who are doing, blitz scaling to maximize returns to the investors. So we are philosophically not aligned with that at all.
Got it. And Redmart is approaching this from a very different lens.
Very different.
Patient capital in some sense.
Patient capital, perennial capital.
Perennial capital.
Yeah.
Got it. And do you influence these investments? And if yes, are there any investments that you've made happen that you're actually very happy about?
So we have certain philosophies. We don't push those philosophies, but then again, we only invest in people who are philosophically aligned. It's never 100%. Some things go wrong, but thankfully so far we've had like a 90% success rate of businesses doing the right things and growing slowly. Because we as investors are not pushing them to do anything. We are only ever nudging or pushing them to do better. Product, service, quality, everything. So I don't want to name any particular businesses because it's a large portfolio, but you pick health or you pick climate, you pick technology, or you pick something like insurance or whatever. There are some amazing companies coming out who are now finding a name in the markets for quality and reliability and trust, and they're becoming profitable, and they're doing it slowly without having to do gimmicks. So we're very happy with many of them.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so next is a question that I'm sure you saw coming, which is, what do you think of consumer privacy?
I mean, talk of the decade, really. And coincidentally, India's data privacy laws just became a reality, I think, 4 days ago, last week. So, and this morning, I was reading this piece of news saying Switzerland is considering some certain things which are very not conducive to privacy. So lots of things are happening across the world. Privacy as a concept in the digital realm has been destroyed by big tech. That's the reality. Even without any legislation or state mandate, privacy has been weaponized, privacy has been sold. If you pick, again, we don't want to be naming companies, but if you pick some of the biggest, most successful technology product, consumer product corporations, they've all made them money by selling and weaponizing, monetizing privacy or the lack thereof. So this is why I said earlier, in the 90s and early 2000s, there was so much optimism about the internet in general, right? But 25 years later, because I've personally been through that whole cycle, I've seen the shift happen within me. I'm really cynical of the internet right now. Of course, love the principles, love what it enables. I'm an internet person. But bulk of the internet now runs on really bad stuff, including violation of privacy. It's being codified into technology. It's being codified into large-scale business models. Companies are incentivized to violate privacy to generate revenue. So it's absolutely terrible. And now, all of this is going to be increasingly legislative across the world. Maybe the sweet spot, the Goldilocks era of the internet is finally fading and ending, where states across the world will want more control, corporations want more control. So it's going to be a scary next decade, thinking of what happens to privacy in general. Thankfully in India, privacy is a fundamental right legally. So we must all be thankful for that. That's a great thing. But if the very business model of multi-trillion-dollar corporations is to violate and monetize privacy, you can imagine the societal effects, right? So I feel deeply about this. I care deeply about this as an individual, as a citizen. And it's not really going to be a pretty thing forward. And as technologists, we can be optimistic of things like encryption, end-to-end encryption. And we must, of course, as technologists, we must always build privacy-focused things. I think it's an ethical responsibility.
Right.
But it's not going to be that simple. It's going to be technology versus legislation at a certain point, versus business models. It already is. At Zerodha, we take privacy very, very seriously. In fact, I think we're the only app in our industry, or maybe the broader industry, that asks for zero permissions. Like you install our mobile app, it asks for zero permissions. Like we don't care. That's not our business model. As I said earlier, our DNA is wired towards delivering good quality products and services. If we don't do that, people don't come to us because we don't have other acquisition advertising channels, right? So philosophically we are like that, and we've codified our philosophy into a business model, and people are recognizing this. We're seeing an increasingly large number of people say that we value the privacy stuff here more than the UI. So that's a good thing, and there is increasing awareness, which is a great thing. Ultimately, you want citizens and people and users to be aware, to raise their voice for privacy
Right.
to exist in society.
Right.
So there's lots of things happening. It's going to be a chaotic next decade.
Okay, so talking of chaos, right, you mentioned climate change also earlier, and that is something you've in general been very vocal about, and
Yeah.
you've also been trying to offset the impact with initiatives at Rainmatter. If you were to run into someone now who was either unaware of where our environment is headed or is in denial about where things are headed, how would you educate them?
See, we're not trying to offset our way away. I don't fundamentally believe in that. It's not even right to say that we'll do all of this damage and then we'll do some other things to offset it. Fundamentally, that's a hack.
Right.
And that's not a sustainable solution or the right way to look at planetary health. So we're not doing that, but we're doing those things like the Rainmatter Foundation, where it's one of the largest climate environment centric nonprofits in India that we've set up, and we back it with significant capital as Zerodha. We see that as an ethical responsibility. If you don't have a healthy planet, it's really simple. If you don't have a healthy planet or a healthy society, how can businesses exist? Nobody will invest or trade or do whatever if you're struggling for decent weather, water, nutrition, etc. Right? This fundamental reality is lost on corporations because corporations only care about quarter-on-quarter profit and results. I mean, humanity is a largely non-empathetic species, I think, at this point, realized. And 5-6 years ago, I would have tried to answer your question with ideas on how to educate people. And I've been trying to whine about it, educate people, illuminate, share my views, etc., friends, family, whoever I meet for a long time from a teenage. The last few years, I think most people don't have to be educated anymore. You don't really have to understand the complex realities or science behind climate change. People are feeling visible effects. Natural calamities and disasters are happening at a large scale. You can pick a country like India and map it out, and it's quite scary. It's happening everywhere. Summers are harsher, monsoon is erratic, sometimes it rains, sometimes it doesn't. So very, very visible physical things are happening, and people are realizing that something is off. Climate as a thing is off. When there should be water, there's no water. Where there should not be water, there's deluge. So I don't think people have to be educated. I mean, most people, there are deniers out there. I don't even know what to say to them at this point, right? But people are realizing, and this big shift has happened in the last 7 to 10 years. We observed visibly. So in the next decade, I think people are going to be asking generally across the world, what do we do now? We should have asked that 30 years ago, but anyway, I think that's going to happen. We're seeing that increasingly as livelihoods are disrupted, as societal life is disrupted by the physical reality of climate change. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, maybe on to happier things, right? Talking of open source, right? So we spoke of FLOSS Fund, and for those unaware, it's not that Kailash is a evangelist of open source. He's a prolific open source contributor as well. So there are a bunch of your projects that have gained massive adoption, both in organizations and even governments.
Yeah.
At Ente, we heavily use ListMonk. One of the projects that left unnamed, I'm sure you were referring to that earlier, talking about sending out emails. So we use ListMonk for sending out emails to our customers in a privacy-friendly way.
Yeah.
And I would like to know what else is cooking. What is the new thing that you're working on?
So, thanks to LLMs, I've started a brand new project, and it's quite a big project. I don't know if I'll be able to complete it. So I've been a Thunderbird user. Thunderbird is Mozilla's email client. I've been using Thunderbird from the year it came out. I think 2004, 2005. One of the early adopters. All my emails, from the very get-go are in Thunderbird. And I'm a huge supporter of Thunderbird and Firefox. I've been donating to Thunderbird from my student days, whatever I could. But, Thunderbird has its limitations. It's a 25-year-old desktop program. Lots of UX annoyances that really bug me. And you remember when Gmail happened, it was so refreshing, super lightweight, simple, web view. But I'm not really a fan of what's happened to Gmail either. It's become bloated just like anything else. So I've been working on this thing codenamed Mail Monk on and off over the last year, and I'm writing it in Rust, a language that I do not know, and it's difficult for me. I don't have the bandwidth to sit down and dedicate weeks to slowly learning a language and then building it. But with LLMs, I'm able to learn, build, iterate all in one loop. And it's, as I said earlier, it's very different for junior engineers or junior developers and senior developers. I know exactly what I want. I've been doing this for 2+ decades. So I'm able to use the LLM to get very direct, pointed results, ask the right questions, learn the right way. So I built a prototype. It's going to be a self-hosted webmail client. It'll have a web UI, super lightweight. Lots of effort must go into UX, scriptability, lots of things. And mails will be stored in SQLite databases. So you can self-host it on your desktop or web. You can back it up easily. So a bunch of pain points that I'm trying to solve. So I built a prototype, and I'd say the project is at 10%. And the next 60 is going to be hard, and the last 20 is going to be insanely hard.
Right.
But for me to go from 0 to 10% in a language that I've never written programs in while learning it is quite something. Something that would have taken me 6 to 8 months of effort of slowly learning, trial and error, etc. I did in a matter of weeks. And I learned so much. Would have been outright impossible for me without LLMs. So that's a project that I'm excited about, but I know it's one of those really big burdens that I've shouldered now. I don't know if I'll be able to deliver, but I'm having a lot of fun building it and learning while building it in a whole new language that I've been interested in but never really had the time to work on. So that's one big FOSS project, Mail Monk, like a whole new mail client out there. Maybe it'll come out one day. Yeah.
Cool. So there is Mail Monk, there is List Monk. So Monk seems to be like a common theme, right? So I would like to imagine that inner peace and contentment is something that you actually spend time thinking about, or you still spend time thinking about. And I mean, I can kind of maybe understand as a little place like Zerodha, wherein you mentioned earlier there are a lot of regulations at play. It's very easy for an external variable to disrupt your day, like what happens in a day.
Yeah. So
are there any principles or philosophies or mantras that you've kind of learned that still help you stay calm and more open?
I learned it the hard way, but it clicked again in my teenage years. Climate anxiety, all kinds of anxiety. I've had significant anxiety issues over the years, but I'm in a much better position now. My worldview is absurdism. No matter what you want, what you plan, the outcomes can be very, very random, right? But we all tend to believe that everything has one direction, things will only get better, etc., etc. But that's not the reality. If we read history, we can see that civilizations have come, flourished, and reset to complete zero. All of those things can happen at any moment. So most things that happen around us are absurd, random things, and it becomes something big, changes the course of history for the better or worse. All the big turning points in my life, my ending up in the UK, getting the opportunity to do a PhD, none of this was planned. Completely, products of chaos. But of course, as I said, the more persistent you are, the more work you put in, the better the odds of outcome. So that is one philosophy that helps me cope with this chaotic existence. We keep asking, like this privacy thing, why is it happening this way? Isn't it obvious that individuals should have privacy? It's obvious to us, but it's not obvious to a lot of people. And these are all eternal fights that, humanity must fight. People have been fighting all kinds of fights forever. And it gets reset, then you have to fight the same fight again. So the question as to why is this happening in the world was a big source of anxiety for me. This made me understand that this is how humans are. The nature of events are absurd. People do crazy, irrational things. Rationality is not a given. Democracy is not just a given. You must constantly be vigilant to preserve democracy. So then the world is absurd. That helps. So when you see something really bad or absurd happening, you're like, why is this happening? Then you realize, okay, yeah. So that helps me.
Got it. So I think you've given a lot of wisdom over this conversation, right? So if you could go back in time and could kind of redo a lot of these things that we've spoken about right now, with all of the learnings that you have right now, what would you do differently in terms of relationships, like culture at Zerodha and technology?
I mean, simple common sense logical things. I don't think we followed any conventional management principles at Zerodha. Whatever, all first principles based, engineering, people, teams, structure, decisions. The decision to let go of revenue because that's the right thing to do it's not a management principle. But so you have to have convictions, you have to have philosophies. Philosophies can flop, you can have deep conviction, it can flop and backfire. But the fact that most of the things we've tried, are gut intuition based on evidence and decent trade-offs between the subjective drive to do something and the objective reality has really worked out over the last 15 years. So that has also increased conviction significantly. So we do things here based on common sense. First principles questions. For instance, you're building a tech team. You don't start by saying, we'll have SDE 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 levels. We have managers, mini managers, senior managers. We don't have those things here. That you must have 15 backend developers, 6 DevOps people. I don't even know how you can even come up with that math. It's random, it's completely arbitrary. Software development and engineering as a discipline doesn't have frameworks to convert units of work into number of people. And yet, when people start teams like, we'll hire 100 people here, 5 people here, 20 people here, it's so random, right? So we don't do that. Let's say you want somebody to work on a front end. You get 1 or 2 people, bus factor, etc. you have to figure out. And if 2 people are not able to manage it and there's more work, you get a 3rd person. So why not just wait for the right time, and when you feel the natural objective pressure to do something with evidence, you do that. There are fundamental questions like, what would keep somebody in a tech team reasonably happy? Nobody can be 100% happy, but we constantly read of people being pushed, people burning out, people, infinite changes, a management which is fully disconnected from tech teams, where tech teams have no voice and the decisions are all made by management sitting somewhere else. These are things that we read about every single day on Reddit and Hacker News and in our private circles, right? So don't have such an environment, because it can't really sustain. People won't be happy. Why would somebody, and this whole thing about attrition and people retaining people, right? Attrition as a thing I'm not a fan of that word. It dehumanizes people. What's the attrition rate of your company? 15%. That's like people coming and leaving like cattle. I'm not a fan of that. Conceptually, I'm not a fan of that at all. But unfortunately, we have that word, and it's a management thing, because that's a reality. People join in hordes, people leave in hordes. But all of those things happen because you have bad culture, practices, all kinds of things. So you must do, not you must, if I as a, let's say, a tech leader can't be happy in the environment that I am, if I can't be productive, how can I expect others to be? So don't do unto others what you don't want done unto yourself. It's a really simple, commonsensical policy. As I said, our apps do not have any trackers. We collect zero data. We don't send any push notifications. We don't send marketing emails. We don't have A/B testing to increase click-through ratios. I hate those things myself. I do not install apps that send me notifications. I have very few apps on my phone. So how could it possibly be ethical for me to build a product that violates all of this? So this is something I've wondered myself. You pick a tech company which invades people's privacy, Do the leaders there themselves like their privacy being invaded, or they're like, no, for me, different rules, for my customers, different rules? This is such a common sense thing, right? This it's not wisdom. It's literally, simple first principle logic. So we basically have those things. What are the things that you must have in a work environment that where people are reasonably happy? Right balance between fun work, good work, grunt work. And grunt work is a reality of tech teams. Once you build a system, you must maintain it for life. Good peer groups. You need to have the right balance of everything where people are more happy than they are unhappy. Then they stay. So making people stay, attrition, it's not a strategic thing. It's a very human thing. You have to be in a decent environment to thrive. So people in charge of creating that environment must instill decency. It's not management studies, it's common sense. So you said I've been sharing wisdom, but not really. It's not wisdom, it's just
common sense.
It's common sense, and I'm strongly opinionated about those. So I'm sharing my strong opinions, but I have deep conviction because it has all worked over the last 15 years. So when somebody asks you, but why not? I can just point them in evidence, it works. So, yeah.
Got it. Cool. So I'll change the vibe a bit. This is a rapid fire of sorts. I've got a bunch of quick questions that you can hopefully answer from the top of your head. Right?
I'm bad at those.
Right. I'll start.
Yeah, please.
What do you think of podcasts?
Too many of them. Like I know I'm in right now. Once in a while, I like a conversation like this myself, but I don't really watch to or subscribe to any podcast. Very, very rare. Just too many great things there. But there's a problem with the signal to noise ratio with podcasts right now.
Right. What is a book that has had a profound impact on who you are?
Oh, Phantoms in the Brain. I mean, I read Phantoms in the Brain. It's a cognitive neuroscience book. Very easy to read. When I was in my post-teenage in the university, it changed me as a person. It gave me grounding. It found me answers to a lot of lingering questions that I had. That is when I truly became an absurdist. I understood that, okay, everything is absurd. I was able to articulate it with that one book, Phantoms in the Brain by V.S. Ramachandran.
Got it.
Yeah.
What is a product or an item that you recently bought which you felt was very high quality?
Sourdough bread.
Okay.
I was very, very happy with the quality of that bread. Whoever made it had really liked making bread. So quality must be everywhere, right? Not just industrially designed products.
Right.
So I was really happy. It was very tasty, and it looked like whoever made that bread truly cared about that bread.
Is there a brand or a baker?
I don't want to plug.
Okay.
I don't know if it's appropriate.
Cool. What is a proprietary software that you use every day?
Must be Gmail G Suite, which we use at the organization. It's one of those things we haven't been able to self-host. Actually, the only thing that we have not yet self-hosted is the workplace suite. But we've been making inroads there. In fact, we have a 5-year plan to fully self-host the email plus productivity suite. We have 1,100 employees. I didn't mention this. Tech team is 35 people. Business plus risk process teams are another 40-50 people. So about 100 people. That's a lean team that runs the org. We have a massive customer support team, like 600 people. It's a necessity. We have a large team that processes documents. We get so many physical documents. So a lot of operational stuff requires people. So that is a large team. But everybody has a Linux laptop. And everybody has a LibreOffice. And this Gmail thing, the G Suite thing for corporate mail, that's the only SaaS that we internally use. But yeah, I'm really happy about the fact that starting in 2014-15, we now have like 1,100 Linux laptops. And every person, non-technical to technical, somebody who handles forms and couriers from them to customer support teams to business teams to techies, everybody has a Linux laptop.
That's great. That's cool.
Yeah.
Got it. Android versus iOS. I know the answer, but I'm just curious. Android versus iOS.
Not happy with the whole attestation thing that's happening recently. I used iOS for 11 years and my usage requirements are really minimal. Sorry, I just realized I'm giving you long-winded answers to your rapid
No,
fire
that's
questions.
fine. Yeah,
But I think it's important
Yeah,
to set
right,
context. I used iOS for many years because the quality of software was just great when I switched, like 2013, and there wasn't really great comparison. And my usage is really minimal. As I said earlier, I have very few apps, messaging browser, that's about it. So it doesn't matter. So, and I use my devices for a long time until they die. So I've had the last device for like 8 years. So when that died, I switched to Android, and the shift happened within 24 48 hours, right? It's just my usage is so abstracted out of the OS that it doesn't even matter what OS it is. So that was a relief. I thought, muscle memory, etc., but I got accustomed in 2 days literally, and I forgot the fact that I'd used iOS for so long. So I prefer Android. The quality is now on par, and for obvious reasons, the big open element to it, we don't know how long it will remain open. And the fact that you can do whatever you want to do, which iOS doesn't allow. But now, over the last few months, we've all been grappling with this whole big question mark looming on the openness of Android. So not happy with that. I would pick Android right now, but not. It's just a trade-off.
got it.
Damn, I should really learn to give shorter
Answers. Okay.
rapid-fire answers.
What are you most grateful for?
That's a tough one. I think privilege, for sure. The fact that I could have been born anywhere, in any community, under all kinds of circumstances, but I was born wherever. And the fact that by birth there was some privilege, relatively, and the fact that we are sitting here in this cozy studio and philosophizing, to be honest, is privilege.
Right.
So, given that the world is random and chaotic and absurd, my birth under the conditions where it happened was also absurd, chance. And I got really lucky, whatever privilege I have. Today I'm exceptionally privileged. I wasn't so privileged in my younger days, but relatively in a place like India, I was still privileged compared to hundreds of millions of other people. So this is one thing that I think of every day. The sheer privilege that many of us have, which most people in the world don't have. And sheer coincidence. We don't get to choose which religion, which community, which family, which geographic region, which economy that we are born to. So that's like the ultimate thing that people should be grateful for, if you have the self-awareness that, damn, we are privileged. Yeah.
Got it. See, anyway, since you're giving long-winded answers, I'll convert the question also to a slightly long-winded one. Like, just what do you think of social media, right? In terms of how do you think we can get the best out of it, and how do you think we can nurture a generation that is immune to its side effects?
I don't think it's possible. I'm not on social media. I've never used social media, and I have an account on Twitter or whatever that I created in 2007-8, but I've never used it.
Yeah.
And I've always been skeptical of big social media for whatever reason, and for sure it's been validated now, the last 10-15 years. I think big social media run by big corporations with financial incentives is fundamentally not good. You can't make it nice and cool and safe for the younger generation because the incentives, its very nature is fully misaligned. Also, humans haven't really evolved with the capacity to communicate with millions of other people, broadcast or whatever, or continuously get input from a very large number of people. I don't think our brains can even process that in that sense, or make meaningful rational decisions on top of it. Now, there's mountains and mountains of evidence of all the bad things social media does to people, adults, young people especially. So I don't think big social media honestly should even exist. We've had forums and communities, etc., decentralized before big social media. Now that's not some magical rose tint glasses where I'd say that's the best, but I would say compared to big social media, many small little pockets are much better. So I don't think big social media can ever do good. Fundamentally, it's not possible. That's like asking a weapons manufacturer about world peace. How do we make all of this attuned to world peace? fundamentally seems wrong. And there's evidence now, mountains and mountains of actual scientific evidence. So no, I don't like social media at all.
Cool. So we spent some amount of time talking about absurd and potentially depressing stuff. So onto something more positive. Like, what are you optimistic about?
I'm a functional pessimist. High functioning pessimist, I would say. If you look at the reality of the world, from climate change to very tricky geopolitical situation across the world, to massive income inequality, terrible growth of big tech into that adversely affects democracies. If you look at the big facts, things aren't great. Maybe things were never great in the past also. So if you think of all of these things, it's eroding privacy everywhere, so many fights to fight every day. It's very difficult to be optimistic. Now, it's also not right to ignore all of this to say that I don't care what happens, I'll just find my bubble of optimism. So it's a very difficult battle of anxiety to balance the reality and the pessimism and cynicism that arises from that with optimism. So I find optimism in small little bubbles of pockets, good projects, passionate people, social impact projects, good FOSS projects, the kind of stuff, let's say what you are doing with Ente, it fills me with optimism in that small little thing. So I would characterize it as lots of pessimism, which I'm aware of, but lots and lots of little bubbles of optimism. There are wonderful people around the world working on amazing things, technology, non-technology, climate. There are passionate people who dedicate their lives to one craft. So when I see people like that, when I see initiatives and projects like that, that fills me with optimism. And I put everything aside. So lots and lots of small little bubbles of optimism keep me going.
Cool. So those are all the questions that I had, Kailash. If there is anything you think the listeners can help you with, maybe you could let them know.
Contribute to FOSS. Use Ente.
Yes, thanks. Great note to end this.
I'm an Ente user. Yeah. I greatly appreciate it. I like it. So keep up the good work, you guys.
Thanks, Kailash.
Cool, thank you.
And thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks.